And we are in Ways and Means. It is we're working on H632. It is the last bill we are going to take a look at today. We are making delightful progress. And we have Michael O'Grady here who's going to take us through the bill.
So H632 is act relating to miscellaneous environmental amendments, and this is Mike O'Grady with Ledge Council for the record. When this bill was introduced, it had two sections relating to stormwater impact fees and striking those fees. And that would have affected the revenue of the state or the revenue of PEC specifically. But as passed out by the Committee on Environment, those two sections were struck. And I don't believe there's anything else in the bill that affects revenue of the state. And so I can walk you through the substance of the bill, and if you would like that, the section by section summary might be the best way.
I think that sounds ideal. And are there any particular sections you would recommend Michael take us through?
Okay. So, yeah, not particular.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Space bar. Happens to me sometimes when I move from committee to committee, it doesn't show.
I think we could probably get you a new iPad.
What I can do here.
I think we could all look on our own devices.
That'd be section by
You
section.
can go to our
Okay.
committee page.
Good luck.
You can go to our committee page. It's on.
No, that's what's.
Oh, it's not.
If you want to just and stop the screen sharing, we can all just follow along.
Okay, so if you're looking at your section by section on your devices, the first section relates to what's called the Extended Battery Producer Responsibility Program. That's the program where you can go and submit your spent batteries for recycling. There's a product responsibility organization that runs that. When you first enacted that law, you told A&R to report back to you on how to recycle and manage hard to recycle batteries like EV batteries and batteries, you know, the Tesla batteries for solar, et cetera. And the stewardship organization has volunteered to do that report instead of A&R. They just need an extra year. So that's what the first section does. The stewardship organization does a report with an extra year. Section 2 changes the inspection requirements for category 1 underground storage tanks. That basically, right now, it doesn't say that delivery is prohibited to those tanks if they are unpermitted. So you technically can deliver to an unpermitted tank right now. And A&R is requiring that they be permitted and that they meet the other standards in rule. So that's that change. Section 3 relates to the Healthy Home Initiative, which was an ARPA program, which provided money to low and moderate income households for replacement of wastewater, water, stormwater systems. That program intended or required personal information of the applicants to be confidential, but that is not clear in state law. And so Section 3 clarifies that the information that Vermont applicants provided in the Healthy Home Initiative is confidential. Sections 4 through 7 relate to the Flood Safety Act from 2024, which is the act which required permitting of development in river corridors. It required going to a statewide standard for national flood insurance protection, studying whether the state should take over administration of flood insurance administration and other wetlands and several other provisions. What 4 through 7 does is it effectively asks for, A&R asks for additional time to do the river corridor rules, the river corridor permitting, the NFIP study committee on state administration. And that's effectively what sections 4 through 7 does. More time to do something that you already required. Sections 8 and 9 relate to clean water service providers. Clean water service providers are entities that are designated for each watershed in the state to do non-regulatory programs. So those water quality programs that are not required by law or permit or otherwise. And so A&Rs has a couple of functions that they need to do to inform those clean water service providers. And they have to take out things like their plan for a watershed or their approval of a project and the value it's given. They have to do that through public notice, but the public notice requirements right now in statute are different. So when they go out, they're not sure which public notice they're supposed to use. They want uniform public notice for all the times that they have to go out to the public notice. And that's what section 8 and 9 does. Sections 10 through 15, you may remember last year, EPA required the state to clarify that A&R has authority over CAFOs and discharges from CAFOs, and CAFOs are concentrated animal feeding operations. And so you made a lot of changes to both Agency of Agriculture statute and A&R statute last year to clarify A&R's authority over permitting of discharges from CAFOs. Sections 10 through 15 make a lot of technical changes to that language, largely because EPA wanted them and they weren't made last year for some reason. I don't know why, but the A&R has asked for these EPA revisions. And then there's some technical things too, like current statute says cow/calf, and does that mean cow or calves? Or does it mean cow and calves? And that's important because the number of cow and calves that you have might trigger a different permit requirement for you. So it was clarified that when cow/calf means cow and calf. So that's made multiple times in these sections as well. So that's basically what sections 10 through 15 are. No fee changes. Now, the Agency of Ag is looking for a fee change for large farms and medium farms, but they're looking at it in the miscellaneous ag bill.
And we are expecting that.
Not in this bill. Section 16 relates to permitting of dams. Whenever anyone is going to do a repair, alteration, removal, construction, any type of action relating to a dam, they have to apply for a state jurisdictional dam. They have to apply to DEC for a permit to do that. Section 16 provides that when dam removal is an appropriate alternative to the applied for action, DEC informs the applicant. The applicant doesn't need to go to dam removal, but they will have the opportunity to revise their application if they want to go to dam removal. But right now, there's questions about whether some of the applied for projects for repair or replacement would be better served by a dam removal. And so this is just providing that option in the application process.
So that's nothing more than feedback saying, you should think about removing the dam instead of repairing it.
Yes, it's not mandatory. It's still the applicant, the dam owner's choice. It's just that the advocates were saying in their experience that their project applicants were not being informed that dam removal is an alternative. And so now it's an alternative, that we'll be informed of that.
Because I have a constituent who's looking to repair a dam on a body of water. And as soon as they talk about trying to get state money, they realize there's money for removal, but not for repair.
But that's not necessarily true. Because last year you changed what used to be called the unsafe dam removal fund, which unsafe dam removal, and that's what your constituent probably heard. But last year you changed that because it didn't make sense to like wait for it to be unsafe that requires removal. And so now, and that change probably just happened in January. That allows for that fund to be used for dam repair. And I can send you that.
Please, yeah.
Section 17 and 18 relate to the emergency rulemaking authority. So there's a process for adopting rule under the Administrative Procedure Act. It generally takes, if you do it as down to the minute of all the things that you're required to do, the notice, the response, the comments, the meetings, you can get it done in as fast as 4.5 months, but nobody does. It usually takes closer to 8 to 10 months. Well, you have an emergency rulemaking authority that allows agencies to go and avoid that normal process if there's an imminent peril to health, safety, or the environment, or there's a federal law that requires them to do something quickly and they don't have enough time to do emergency rulemaking. ANR is now looking for a third option for emergency rulemaking. You may know that many state programs, and it's not just ANR, it's banking, it's Medicaid, it's some housing provisions. They rely on references to federal law. So when you go and look at their rule, instead of repeating all of the federal rule and the state rule, they just cross-reference, called incorporation by reference. For example, the banking institution law has about 60 references to federal law. So air pollution control regulations have about 70 references to federal law. The agencies are concerned because there was an executive order that said, actually I have to step back one. Does everyone know what Chevron is? NRDC versus Chevron, where the courts were supposed to give deference to agencies in their interpretation of statute when they adopt a rule. Well, that had been on the book for about 50 years. And agencies, state, federal agencies have been using that as authority in their adoption of rules. But the US Supreme Court overturned Chevron 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago. And subsequently, the president issued an executive order that said agencies should repeal anything that was unauthorized or unsupported by law, and cited specifically Chevron. So technically, agencies are supposed to go out and repeal under what's called the federal APA good cause exception, to repeal all those rules that were based on Chevron. So if you're a state agency that has 70 references to federal law in your rule, you're probably a little terrified that some of those are going to go away and you won't be able to implement your program because it's no longer incorporated by reference, because it doesn't exist anymore. So what the proposal from the agency is to allow an agency, any state agency, to go to emergency rulemaking if that repeal of a federal statute or rule would jeopardize the ability of the state ability to implement a state program. Emergency rules are only valid for 180 days. The agency would have to come forward with a permanent rule at 180 days, or potentially ask for another 180 days. That's a possibility. But it's only good for 2 years, because that that executive order and removing those federal rules is supposed to happen quickly. It won't happen quickly. There's going to be a lot of litigation. But you will revisit that in 2 years to see if you still need that emergency rulemaking authority. But it will prevent programs, Medicaid, banking, air pollution, water pollution from just not being enforced.
Thank you.
Section 19 relates to the hauling of waste tires. The committee downstairs, House Environment, was looking at an extended producer responsibility bill for waste tires. And they just couldn't come to consensus with the regulated community, with the agency, with themselves. And they decided not to go forward with the EPR program. But they still want to address, in some respects, the hauling of waste tires. So you may know that a lot of solid waste prohibitions are enforceable at the local level, like burning waste. That's enforceable at the local level. Littering, enforceable at the local level. One thing they want to make enforceable at the local level is the transport of waste tires. There are companies out there that are going around and collecting waste tires for whatever purpose, and they are not certified solid waste haulers. And so that's important because certified solid waste haulers first need to be identified to the agency so they know who they are. And they need to meet some vehicle safety requirements for their transport.
What's the different, I'm not gonna ask. It's okay.
But you don't need a big, huge truck to be a certified solid waste hauler. You can do it in a pickup truck. They just want to know who you are and that you're doing it safely. And that would be enforceable at the municipal level, just like burning waste, littering, snowmobile waste, vessel waste, etc. And then section 20, they, instead of the EPR program for tires, they want to report back from A&R after a stakeholder process on how to manage legacy waste motor vehicle tire piles and recycling or reuse options for waste motor vehicle tires. And then the last substantive section is the emissions repair program. When you, the General Assembly, required emissions inspection as part of the state air pollution control plan, implementation plan, you created this assistance program for low and moderate income individuals.
I had no idea we had that program until I just read this. It sounds like.
Well, I will tell you why you had no idea. Because while that program has been in existence, DMV also had the authority to waive your failure of your
I also
emissions
didn't know that
inspection.
Either.
And so they have been waiving your emissions inspections failures, but that goes away this year. And now they expect the emissions repair program to become more popular because frankly, they've only had 3 applicants.
Yeah.
And the other thing that they want to do is they want to make the eligibility criteria more just easily implementable, because right now they're using a LIHEAP standard, which you have to do certification for. Now they're just going to be using a percentage of federal poverty level and the applicant's attestation and potential submission of documentation, tax or otherwise.
Great.
That's the bill.
Questions?
Question, way back on section 2, underground storage tanks. The language you wrote is perfectly clear. I understand you said, the question I have is, what if there are underground storage tanks already now that aren't permitted, that are in use? What happens
They
then?
have to go get a valid permit from A&R.
Okay.
And so there's no delivery,
Till they-
if this passes, that there would be no delivery until that. And an underground storage tank isn't your home heating tank in your basement. That's actually an above ground storage tank,
Right.
even though it's in your basement. Above ground.
More like unburied.
Yes,
Okay.
that's exactly it. An underground storage tank is one that is 10% or more buried in the ground. Yeah. And it's not farm tanks for motor fuel, and it's not residential heating tanks as well. Because some people have actual underground storage tanks for their oil. I know that because when I moved my grandfather out of his house, I found one.
Yeah, I remember a number of years ago, quite a number of years ago, we did a bunch of work on these and also with the lines between the tank and the gas tanks for the pumps and various other kinds of things.
Right, so a category one tank is not just the receptacle that holds the fuel or other regulated material. It's everything that's related to that system.
Without going back through all the testimony, the best of your knowledge and belief that T's are crossed and the I's are dotted with regards to underground storage tanks that will now need a permit. The process is pretty well straightforward.
Yes, I think it is for a while there, and I think this is what Rep. Naslin is alluding to. There were single wall tanks,
Right.
and the single wall tanks are not reliable. And so the state has moved to double wall tanks and some other alternatives. And so that's been fully transitioned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
On the sections 4 through 7 flood safety acts extensions, now that's me to speak for A, do you recall if it provided any rationale for the extensions? I can.
Banner is available if you very much have.
I can follow up.
Okay, great.
I mean, I can't answer.
Oh, great, please do so.
But when the flood safety act passed, they said they needed more time for all of the requirements in it. And you didn't give it to them. And so they came back and said, we still need that time. And could you please give it to us? And they were given 14 positions under the Flood Safety Act, and it took them time to fill those positions. And so, and they have to do a lot.
Yeah.
And so that's effectively their testimony.
Anyone else? Yes, Representative Brannigan.
Sections 15 through, no, 10 through 15. Are these necessary?
Are these, I'm sorry?
Are all these changes necessary for farmers and if the farmers? I mean, this is not really our bailiwick, but is it enough for me to vote no on the?
Some of them US EPA required, and some of them that EPA required are kind of picky. For example, currently in Title 10, there's cross references to definitions in Title 6. And EPA doesn't like that because it makes it look like Title 6 in the Agency of Agriculture has some authority over Title 10. So they require the removal of the cross reference and just the inclusion of the actual text of the definition from Title 6. So pretty picky, but that's what EPA wanted. The way that you define two farms that need to be treated as one for purposes of getting a permit, you have that in your statute, but EPA doesn't like how it's worded, so they want their wording. There's a,
That's helping me help. Thank you.
so.
We're doing this because the federal EPA is requiring us to.
Yes, and
Okay.
you know, the Agency of Ag is getting some things that they would like as well. And there's something that I missed in a reference to an old MOU between the two agencies that's in a section of law that I never even thought the reference would be in. But it's there, so I had to change that as well.
Okay, then, is the House Ag Committee, they have this
I
yet?
have seen it and they approved it, and so has the agency.
No fiscal impact.
We'll get there in a minute.
Yeah, okay, that's it.
Anything else for Michael? Michael sees nothing, and so he is leaving the table. Great. Which of you how are you guys doing over there?
I have like 3 sentences.
Okay.
If you'd like me to get in the chair.
You can stay right there. If
Okay.
Is that okay with you, Representative Page?
I can.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, great.
Thank you for asking.
Yeah, well, change the scene. So Tim Burnett, Joint Fiscal Office, yes, really minor, kind of going super downstream, potential fiscal impacts. I don't have a fiscal note yet. I'll have it ready for you all early next week. But to the extent the state would be permitting development in river corridors, and that time in which permitting goes live is extended from, it looks like fiscal year 28 to fiscal year 2030. You would realize that fee revenue later, but since they still have to do rulemaking and set up the program, it's unclear the magnitude of the permits, the fee amount, et cetera. And that's basically all I have.
Logan, do you need to
Yeah, so for the record, Logan Moore at the Joint Fiscal Office, the only thing, the reason I'm here today is the section 21, the emission computer program. I don't know if it's necessarily fees, but this is, as was mentioned, changing that program, as well as my understanding is sort of increase who is eligible for this program. So there will likely be more people using this program, and there'll be more vouchers issued in the future. So I just wanted to highlight that change.
More than 3.
That is, I think, the hope of this, yes.
Thank you. Anyone need anything else?
Just a question for Ted. So was there anything projected for those applications or fees that you were talking about in this year's budget or next year's?
Not anything in the budget that I know of. Right, we're looking at fiscal year 27, so it would be a year later than that. And I checked the fiscal note for Act 121, which is Flood Safety Act. It didn't see any commentary on fee revenue, so
Okay.
yeah, we don't have anything to operate from. Yeah. Yep.
There isn't even a fee set for those permits yet.
Okay, all right.
So, Michael Greedy, did this get a drive-by from the Transportation Committee?
It did.
Wow, everyone spent time at this.
They were at first a little skeptical of the program with the 3 applications, but then DMV came in and said they're no longer a waiver authority and they recommend continue. That's what happened. Logan probably was there.
Anyone else?
Madam Chair, I would move that we find draft 5.1 strike amendment to H 632 favorable based on no financial impact to the state.
Thank you. Any? Representative Wozniak second, Representative Kimball first. Sorry about that. Discussion.
We used to be able to vote one way on the bill in committee, and then when we get to the floor, we have our own decisions to make on the floor.
Oh, always and forever, Representative Brandon.
Okay, thank you. All right, changes.
Anyone else have anything?
Yeah.
Okay, seeing nothing, please call the roll.
Absolutely. Representative Brannigan. Yes. I'll vote yes as Representative Burkhart, Representative Higley,
No.
Representative Holcomb.
Yes.
Representative Kimball,
Yes.
Representative Maslin.
Yep.
Representative Odie,
Yes.
Representative Page,
No.
Representative Wozniak,
Yes.
Representative Canfield,
Yes.
and Representative Kornheiser.
Yes.
We have voted the bill favorable as amended 9-0.
Thank you.
Just not amended. Oh, not amended.
Not
Oh,
Amanda.
as we got it, okay. I did, it's always on, okay, that's good. Okay.
Thank you, everyone. You okay to report it?
Sure.
Okay, great. Representative Kimball's reporting.
Got it.
And we are done for the day.